Hi, everyone. This is Dorie Clark, and I'm so pleased to be coming to you on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. Happy holiday season for everybody else. But this is a very exciting time. I hope as we're coming up to the end of the year that everyone is in a festive mood. And you should be in an even more festive mood because today we are going to be talking about a really important topic. It's about how do you communicate effectively in general, but especially during the weirdness that is COVID. We're going to be talking with communication expert Jyoti Singhvi, and she's going to be sharing some strategies with us. Jyoti, so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dory. Super excited to be here with you and with everyone. Thank you, Newsweek, too.
Excellent. And friends who are here live, especially on this imminent soon to be holiday, we want to make this as fun and as casual as possible. So please go ahead, tell us who you are. Tell us where you're calling in from. Calling, of course, is metaphorical during the age of COVID, but type into the chat box where you're from. We'd love to say hi to you. And we especially want to be taking your questions for Jyoti or me for that matter. So please feel free at any point to type them in there as well, but we'd love to see who you are and where you're from. So, Jyoti, the starting point that I had for all of this, I am curious about your thoughts. What mistakes are you seeing out there? Obviously, we've all been thrown into this circumstance where, now all of a sudden we're communicating like this. All of a sudden, everybody has to be this AV pro, where it's like, oh, how's my angle? Things like that. But what are the biggest mistakes that people are making when it comes to communicating during this time period?
Absolutely, Dory. So there are one mistake I'll talk about, which is during this time period, and one mistake that we make is all through our professional careers, and I'll talk about both of them. During this time period, I think in the beginning there was this fear of Zoom. What is Zoom? And oh my gosh, I don't know how to do it. And my light, like you said, lighting, my setup, my office, my background, all those things. And now the problem is we're all zoomed out, right? So it's a lot of Zoom. Oh, not another Zoom. Do I have to be on Zoom? I can't engage with the people. I don't like it. So it's that attitudinal problem that we are facing with a lot of professionals because it's just a lot of Zoom. So what I want to say to that is that you want to look at the positive side of it. Yay, you don't have to commute to go anywhere. I'm starting to build so many stronger or greater relationships because earlier, if somebody was in California, all I did was a phone call. I mean, I'm in New York area. Or if it was in New York, I was spending at least an hour going back and forth between each other's offices, right? So a lot of time was wasted. Now you get on Zoom, you really get to see people live in their backgrounds and their environments, and you really get to connect with people and you remember who that person is. So just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about more things around Zoom and how we can help with the situation. One thing I do want to leave with, which is like an ongoing problem that I think most of us professionals have it, is we overlook communication, strategic communication. And by that, what I mean is there are two very important skills or too many important pillars to your business or career success. And for one of the skills or one of the pillars is your hard work, your expertise, and the product you're going to create with that. That is a service product, a knowledge product, or an actual product. Whatever is the work that you're going to create is a product. The other one is your communication skills. So nobody ever told us that communication skills are critical for our career or business success, right? Nobody tells us and nobody trains us to do that. So we kind of stumble upon it. Oh, I have to make a presentation. What do? I screwed up. And it's not just about creating presentations or doing presentations. It's also about interpersonal communication. How am I communicating upwards to our bosses, to the executives, to the boards? How are we communicating with our teams, with our peers? Do they really know the impact that I'm generating with my work? A lot of times people in the professional world see this, that they're doing amazing work. They're glued to their screens, they're doing amazing work, and somebody else got the promotion. You did good work, you're smart. What happened there? Because people around you weren't rallying for you because they don't know what exactly you have produced and what impact that you have created. So it's extremely, extremely critical. And this skill needs to be done in a strategic format. The communication, you have to be mindful, you have to be consistent, you have to be strategic, and it has to be well architected in terms of in alignment with your goals. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so important. Thank you for that, Jyoti. And we just want to say hello to some of the folks who are joining us here. We have a great international crew, as always, tuning into our weekly Newsweek Better series. So we have Linda from Atlanta. Hi, Linda. We have Yasmina from Paris. Oh, my goodness. We have Joseph Jan from Dublin. And Joseph and I were just hanging out when I was speaking a couple of weeks ago for the MBA Association of Ireland. So good to see you here. We have Chantal from Geneva. We have Rana, or possibly Raina, hello, from Chicago. We've got Santa Barbara. We have Simona from London, Jennifer in New York. We have Jennifer in Chicago, Janine in Houston. Oh my goodness. Pete from Newcastle upon Tyne. I love it. We've got Vancouver. So many wonderful friends here. So thanks for tuning in. And please feel free to type your questions into the chat box for Jyoti as well. So Jyoti, a question that I have is I'm curious, when it comes to speaking in person and then speaking virtually, for the longest time, I mean, literally until March, basically, it really seemed like whenever people talked about public speaking or public speaking skills, it was always about from the stage, presenting to the board or presenting at a conference, things like that. Nobody even really took seriously the question of virtual presentations. And so I'm curious, when you think about this, are what's similar and what's different? Like, is it a completely different skill set, or is it actually like mostly the same, but there's like kind of 10% overlap? How do you conceptualize that?
Great question, Dorie. So it's mostly similar. However, there are certain things which just need to be amplified or need to be tweaked or kind of come at a slightly different angle. So just to make it easier, I will break it down into 3 E's of online, Zoom, or Facebook Live, or any kind of video communication. So the first E is going to be your energy. And so all of these apply to your real live conversations also, but energy, for example, has to be amplified at least twice or 3 times on a Zoom or video conversation, because for some reason it just kind of dissipates, or it just lowers as it goes through your screen over the internet going away to somebody else's screen. So you really have to show up with the maximum possible energy, adjusted to the type of situation and audience you're speaking to. Now, the second E is engagement. So when we were live, engagement, yes, you had to work on the engagement, but just by the fact that they're present in the room, you're present in the room, maybe it's a room full of 5 people, 10 people, 1,000 people, or stage full of people. When I'm speaking of public or communication skills, I'm not only speaking about public speaking, but also, presentation, and then also interpersonal communication skills. So you are there, you see people live. So that was, not as hard. Now, engagement, you just have to think about engagement very, very creatively. And that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But once you know the right tips, you can start engaging your audience. It's case in point. Dorie, you are engaging and welcoming your audiences by saying hello, by asking them to chat. And those are some really great ways to engage your audience. The third one, which is extremely important, is empathy. Now, why empathy? Empathy is always important towards your audience, always. But now the situation, like you said, it's crazy. So much different things are happening in everybody's lives. Everybody's juggling so many different balls, right? The boss is calling on the deadline, breathing down your neck, but the kids are over here and they're failing miserably getting online to virtual education. You're playing multiple roles. Of course, your cleaning lady is not coming in. So now you're a housekeeper, you are, or a parent who's teaching from home, if you are a parent, and then you're still working away. The deadlines haven't stopped, or they haven't eased on most of us. And then there is also that charge on us to communicate with all the different teams. It's because you can't walk down the office and talk to another person in a different office, and it just becomes a little bit more challenging. So we are on these devices communicating with different people. So I invite you to be more empathetic towards your audience members, and they could be anybody. They could be your colleagues, they could be people actually listening to you, your audience, your followers, they could be your customers, depending upon if you are running a business. So being empathetic towards them, and being empathetic towards yourself too. You are dealing with a lot of things. So don't think about making things absolutely perfect. right? Do your very best. But when you show up present with the right mindset, with the right energy, you're going to do a phenomenal job, especially when you are in this kind of a video meeting. So just empathy is very important, remembering we are all humans and to err is human. So those are my three E's to kind of ease that gap between communication on Zoom versus live.
Yeah, I love that, Jyoti. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a very helpful framework. And I'll just mention for any of you guys who are enjoying this conversation, one thing that you can do, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the share button, because that means that more of your friends and colleagues can benefit from Jyoti's insights as well. And if you want to make sure you never miss an amazing weekly Newsweek interview show, which we do live every Thursday, noon Eastern, 5 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, 9 a.m. Pacific, what you can make sure to do is to go to dorieclark.com/LinkedIn, and you can hit the subscribe button, subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, and every week you will get a notification about who our guest is, and you never have to miss one. And so I just want to say hi to some of the great folks who have joined us. Japar's here from Zurich, and we have Muna from the United Arab Emirates. We have Indrani, coming in from Western Mass. Very nice. Mohan from New Delhi. We have Janice from Argyle, Texas. We've got a friend from New Mexico. So thank you, everybody, for joining. And we have some great questions that have come in as well. One of them, which came in from Karen from California, is, Jyoti, we're curious, you were mentioning that it's important to have a high level of energy because, obviously it is easy sometimes for people to tune out when we're doing virtual stuff. There's distractions and all that. But Karen wants to know, is it possible to appear overwhelming with too much energy on a business Zoom? Sort of how do we know how much is too much? How do you think about that?
That's a great question. And that's why I also said come with high level of energy appropriate to the occasion and the audience. I today had to tune down a little bit of my energy because of the size of the room I'm in, the audiences that I'm speaking with. I mean, not that I'm not 100% present and giving my best energy, but we all have different dials of energy. It will come with practice. There's not 100%. Sometimes you can exude a little bit more energy when you're seeing everybody on the Zoom pictures because you can really engage with them. That energy tones down a little bit when you're not seeing them live in video. So when it's this kind of a setting, it just tones down. And again, it depends on how formal the situation is or how informal the situation is. I speak to Fortune 500 executives, really successful entrepreneurs, people from top Ivy League schools at all time. I mean, very frequently. And what I usually do is, because I'm speaking about communication skills, I really amp up my energy and I make it very fun. I add music and dance and a lot of those things because it's usually around lunch break or it's usually at the end of the day when I'm speaking to people. So that has worked fine with me. But if you are again presenting to executives or the board members or some serious clients, you will have to kind of tweak your energy based on what the situation is. What I mean by coming with your best energy is this: don't don't appear in a normal way that we would have appeared in a room across the table. So, hi, Dorie, it's so nice to see you. This is my low energy. How do you like it? Do you like it? Just to kind of give you a little bit of a flavor of the lower energy, medium energy. I'm not going to show you my super high energy. I don't think it's appropriate here. So
You'd break the internet, Jyoti. That
yeah, I'd be
was terrifying.
dancing with my super high energy.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a useful frame. I mean, for sure, we need to adapt ourselves to the environment. But it is really true, especially because there are so many distractions and competing priorities when people are at home. Basically, we kind of need to bring the A game. So, in fact. On a previous edition of the Newsweek Better show, I interviewed a friend named Shama Hyder, who is a social media expert and consultant. She's the author of The Zen of Social Media Marketing, and she raised a really good point. She said, you know what? When all this started in March, the first Zoom, the second Zoom, like, oh, that was exciting. Like people were sort of voluntarily like, oh, how fascinating, how novel. And then she said by the 80th Zoom, you really got to bring it, which I think is very true. So On that point, a great question came in from our friend in Dublin, from Joseph Young, and he wanted to know: do you find that virtual Zoom calls or presentations are actually more intimate in some ways because you are, bringing people into your home or wherever you are? In my case, I'm on vacation in Miami, so that's exciting. That was the whole setup kind of thing. But oftentimes we are. We've got the pets, we've got the kids, we've got the parents, or what have you. So how do you think about that? Is it actually possible that in some ways Zoom might increase our potential for intimacy with people? What are your thoughts?
Great point. Totally agree with you. Right, is that how I say your name? Absolutely. And that's why I also said, actually, we should use it as an advantage because we're getting to know people on a more intimate basis. Like you said, kids come in and it's such a welcome relief. So one of my clients who's a senior executive in the financial sector, he was actually talking to another executive of his, and suddenly, no, actually one of the clients who was the CEO of another large firm. And his 5-year-old son came in running with a boo-boo, and he said, sorry, excuse me, guys, I just have to apply Band-Aid. And it was just so heartwarming because these people whom we put up on a pedestal as a CEO or whoever else are human just like us. Dorie and I, we were talking about it, the vacation mode and everything else. It just reconnects us. Completely agree. The cats come in, the little dogs come in, and it's just such a welcome relief. And we just get to know people on a more one-on-one and human level. A lot of times when I am giving a presentation, I invite people to bring their drinks or their coffee or even their lunch or dinner, because I don't want to come between a person and their meal. So that's absolutely okay. I want to make them very, very comfortable as much as possible. So great point. Absolutely. And we should take advantage of that to get to people, know people on a more personal basis. We talked about somebody's travels to Indonesia because she had these beautiful elephants hanging by her window. And otherwise I would have just known her as, an Ivy League, somebody very prominent, etc. Right? But now I know that she loves to travel, and we shared our travel stories. So yeah, great point. And that's why I think we should personalize our own spaces a little bit too. Again, keeping that professionalism in mind. Dorie, you interviewed Robert, right, from Shark Tank, and he had lovely pictures of his family right behind him. It was so nice. It's just like visiting somebody in their home office. It just gave that good vibe.
Yeah, I love that. I think the personalization is really powerful and important, and it is interesting, and useful to think about what message you're sending. In fact, in this Airbnb that I'm staying at, the original angle that I had for this had, for some reason, it was a deer head, not a real deer head, but it was a sculpture of a deer head, and I thought, that's a little odd, so I changed the angle. So we gotta be conscious of these things. So speaking of being conscious about these things, you might be conscious that you'd like to learn more about Jyoti. And if you are, you can go to her website, jyotinewyork.com. And if you're interested in learning more about me and signing up for the mailing list to get a free self-assessment and to also learn more about these weekly conversations, just go to dorieclark.com and you can do it there. And we'd love also to make sure to say hello to some new friends who have come in. Sumia is here from Bangalore. Carlos is here from Colombia. We're so happy to have all of you guys here. And one of the questions, Jyoti, that I hear a lot from folks, and in the chat, I'm noticing this. Folks are often a little nervous sometimes about the technical issues. One LinkedIn user says, the issue with virtual is that we're relying so much on the technical that it becomes a big problem if it doesn't work. And I think that's really true. And Japar had a sort of a technical question like, oh, it's so weird. How do you actually even make eye contact in the virtual meetings? And of course, like, so here I'm making eye contact, but I'm staring into this like little bizarre green dot, which, I mean, that's weird. So how do you think about the sort of technical end of it that can be a little awkward for people?
Great question. There are so many different aspects of it. So it changes from the digital device you're using. If you're using your phone versus an iPad versus a large screen versus your laptop. So it will change based on that, and based on the largeness of the screen also, and the angle of the screen, you're going to set up wherever you're going to be, just like Dorie said, what angle am I going to take? The beauty is you can even zone in on one angle of your room, and you don't have to show. This could be, I'm in an office, but a lot of us are in studio apartments, right? It could be your bedroom, or you could be right outside a kitchen and you're taking the backsplash of the kitchen. So that could be absolutely okay. That's a beauty that you can move the angle. Then eye contact is a big one. Eye contact, to actually make people think and feel that you are making eye contact, you want to look in the eye of the camera, right? So based on the device, I thought doing it on my laptop, which I normally use my laptop for these things, is hard enough. But today I'm using an iPad, and that's really hard because on the iPad, the rectangle, right? The screen is here, so I'm looking at the screen, but the camera is over here, right? So now just so that you can see, I'm looking at the camera. How does that feel, Dorie? Does that feel like I'm looking at you guys?
Feels like, yeah, I think you're looking at me.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Dorie, I'm actually looking at you. How does that feel?
It kind of looks like you're looking off to the side a little bit.
Exactly. And now I'm looking at myself, right? So you have to kind of play, and it will become easier with practice. The more you do it, the easier it will get. It will be awkward in the beginning, but the more you do it, it will become easier. So as much as possible, look at the eye of the camera, and then from time to time, you're going to have to look at your audiences, because you want to get their feedback, or their facial expressions, and you want to have a conversation with their audience, your audience. So I'm looking at Dorie at this time because I want to see what feedback I'm going to get from Dorie. I'm looking back at you from the camera eye. So at that, it feels awkward, but you have to just kind of train your eye. Also, in terms of the angles of your laptop or phone you can always put on a tripod if you have a tripod. If you don't have a tripod, then you can just kind of prop it up with books, or maybe a vase in the back which is not showing, or something else, maybe a stapler. Phones are small, so they don't need that much support.
I literally
Oh,
have my laptop on top of a cactus. It is literally on a cactus bowl right now. You know, that's how we
absolutely.
roll.
Yeah, and you are not in your office, you're not in your studio, right? So it doesn't matter. A lot of times I prop up my laptop with two books under it so that it's at least that level high. Also, you want to make sure that your eyes are, the level of the camera. Maybe my eyes look a little bit lower because, again, I'm using a brand new device today, which I normally don't use. The other thing is practice and preparation. So come a day before, come maybe like set it up about an hour before, 2 hours before, just to make sure everything works. Technology, yes, can fail. Again, I like to keep it like an open book. I can also share with you, what Dorie and I did right before this. Is that okay, Dorie?
You can feel free to share.
Yeah. So we set each other's, I mean, actually she was perfect, but she helped me set my area, just my angles up better. We switched our headphones so that we can hear each other better. So you want to definitely arrive at your location at least an hour early, and then meet with the other people who are involved in your conversation, or an interview like this, or a moderated conversation like this, at least 10-15 minutes early, so that you can set everything else up, so that you're not nervous about technology. Things can still fail or go wrong. In that case, what I always do is, again, if it's a moderated conversation, I make another person a co-host, and we exchange our text numbers, so that if there's another problem, let's say my internet dies, right? So I can quickly text Dorie, well, I'll be right back on, and Dorie will say, she'll have another question, comment, she'll engage with you, and nobody's panicking that Jyoti has disappeared. Things have happened, you want to go live, and you know Zoom is not working, Facebook is not working. Just have like a buddy there, have an accountability buddy who can just kind of text it out to the people who are waiting for you. So again, empathy. Remember, I talked about empathy. That is critical. Your audience is human, you're human. So have grace. Nothing nothing will fall apart, nothing will break loose. I mean, it's going to be fine. You will be 5 minutes here or there, but you will be right back on track. Just stay calm, otherwise things would get worse. Don't panic, and see technology as a tool and as an ally, instead of fretting it.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jyoti. And we're beginning the denouement of our interview. We got time for maybe a couple more questions. But as you've been taking all this in, one way that's a great way to solidify the knowledge that you've received, and also to help share it with other people, so that we can learn from each other. If you want your mission, should you choose to accept it, type one thing that you have learned from this conversation into the chat box. What's your favorite tip? What's your favorite takeaway? What are you going to be trying to experiment with? We'd love to hear it. And so a great question, Jyoti, also came in. A couple of people were asking similar questions here, because the question about to be on camera or to not be on camera during some of these video calls has been a big question. And so we had one from Enzo, who says, a lot of people don't really feel comfortable switching on their camera. Is there a way that we can help them feel more comfortable? And similarly, one came in from Smriti, and she said, well before COVID, they were doing WebEx or Zoom, but back then nobody really felt much pressure to be on camera. And now it's like, oh, everybody's got to be on camera. So how do you think about this question? Is it really kind of mandatory that you need to be on, or how do you determine when it is and when it isn't?
Okay, and are we talking about this from the point of view of the speaker? How do you get people on the camera, or from the point of view of the audience, or both?
Well, I imagine that probably the primary use case would be either the individual professional who's like, do I, I'm not dressed up and my background's messy. Like, do I have to turn on the camera? And then the other one is like, let's say you're a manager, let's say you're presenting your team, and 15 out of 20 people are a black square. You're like, I don't know what's going on. What are these people thinking? That's a little discomforting. How can you, short of being a dictator, how do you get people to maybe want to do that? So curious about your thoughts in either or both of those circumstances.
Excellent. Absolutely. So let's talk about first the work situation. Let's say this is a work meeting. Hopefully, guidelines have been set up by the leaders in your organization, whether it is free will or whether it is mandatory to be on camera, depending upon the meeting. I personally would highly recommend, if it's a work meeting, you please show up on camera, because you want to show respect to the person who's going to be talking or presenting. And when I say work meeting, it could be 5 people, 2 people, it could be 10 people, 20, 30, 50, whatever it is. If it's all hands meeting, and if it's, depending on the size of your organization, I don't know, 100, 500 people, you can get on and off camera. Let's say you just needed to grab a drink of water, just turn off your camera, leave, that's fine. But in terms of work, you must be on camera, because it not only shows respect for the other person, second, it shows your participation, and it just shows your own intent to be a team player. It's very important. Finally, it again shows your visibility. This person is engaged. They are there. No matter what's going on in their lives, they have decided to show up, and they are always present. Be engaged. And it's not just about being on camera, my friends. Communication is a two-way street. So there's always that speaker who's going to be speaking. And when I say speaker, I don't just mean person on stage. It could be one person giving a presentation to 5 other people, so that person is a speaker. The one-way street is the speaking. The second-way street, that coming from the other way, is the listening. They're speaking to you. So you have to be an engaged and respectful listener. How do you be an engaged and respectful listener? You look at them, with good attitude and good intent, and actually you are participating in absorbing the information they're sharing. Secondly, please give them positive feedback. It is hard. I mean, you guys have all been on giving presentations, or been on Zoom, or been on video meetings. It is hard, no matter how frequently you do it. It is hard, especially as a speaker, you want to engage your audience. So as an audience member, I strongly urge you to smile back, to nod. I'm constantly looking at Dorie, because she's the only audience member I can see, and she's nodding, and it is great feedback, right? It makes my job as a speaker or as a panelist so much easier. Thank you, Dorie. You are a great audience member. So please do that. Don't just be, present like that, but present, engaged. Okay, be engaged and be present. Now, if it's a large meeting, right? Large meeting as in it's a webinar or something that you are just there because I want to absorb information, please again show up. You know how much effort that person put into creating that webinar, that talk of the topic that you're interested in or somewhat interested in, or maybe were forced by work people to get to, or are interested on your own, whatever the situation is. Chances are this person has put in days, if not weeks of work. Anytime I'm giving a presentation, I customize it completely, and it takes me multiple days of work. So again, out of respect for this person. Second most important thing for you will be out of, if you are there present completely, you're going to get so much more from that conversation. Otherwise, you will be, texting away, or you'll be on another screen and you will miss certain parts of the conversation. If there are times that you're zoomed out and you just don't want to be on camera, or the hair is not looking appropriate, you're not dressed up, once in a while, it's okay. I mean, I'm not going to make it a hard and fast rule. It's absolutely okay if there's a lot of people already on the screen for the speaker. That's absolutely okay if you turn it off completely. And when you can tell the speaker, sorry, I'm just not in a location, I'm just not, ready, or, it's just not, the most professional situation right now. So I'm sorry, but I'm engaged. I'm not on camera, but I'm quite engaged, and I'm really enjoying the conversation. So that would be my advice.
Fantastic, Jyoti. Thank you. Well, we are just about at time. I'm going through and seeing some of the key points that people have highlighted that they really got a lot out of. They said that the 3 E's is fantastic. Some of your tips about eye contact, and also especially about energy level and how to maintain that and to draw people in. So thank you guys for being such an engaged and an active group of folks, for your great presence and your great comments and questions. And for those of you who want to learn more about Jyoti and her work, she actually has a free resource. This is where you get it. This URL, bit.ly/book on confidence. Jyoti, very briefly, what is this that our fine folks can access for free?
It's a Pandora's box. Just kidding. So, so it's an ebook. It's about how to be a confident and engaging speaker. So the book doesn't talk about only being confident and engaging. Maybe you are a confident speaker, but beyond the book, there are so many other resources that you will have access to once you download this book. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can also find me through theacegroup.com. So the ACEGROUP. There's an E in the end, group.com. Jyoti, New York is also a great location, but that's my luxury goods company. So I have 2 different businesses.
All right, fantastic. Well, Jyoti, thank you so much. And for those of you who want to get on the list, download self-assessment, and make sure you never miss one of these weekly conversations, again, you can go to dorieclark.com to sign up and make sure that happens. We're so happy to have you here, Jyoti. Thank you all for tuning in. Next week at this time, we have our friend Todd Churches joining us. Todd is the author of a book called Visual Leadership, and we're going to talk about the visual elements of what it means to be a leader and how to convey your ideas. So it's a really exciting topic that many of you, including me, maybe hadn't thought about enough heretofore, but we're all going to learn something together 1 week from today. In the meantime, have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you all get to have a great vacation. Jyoti, thank you for being here. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Thank you.